The only other one I will put out there is artist.
Artist. Okay.
Or you do some drawing as well?
Yes.
Okay. But
so that's like two things I can't do.
First of all, I want to actually start there because a lot of people, it's a conversation we have and we're not an interview necessarily. But I want to know about Krystle as a person because you would have popped up on my radar. I made you insist to me. You've known me for a longer time than I remember, but you popped up on my radar the last time that you were making a fuss about the Auditor General's report. I don't want to say a fuss with a negative connotation.
Yeah.
You were raising issues that were brought out of it because it felt as though a lot of people weren't really paying as much attention to it. Give me some background into who Krystle Howell is.
I've been working as an auditor for about 15 years now.
Get out. 15 years?
Yeah, she started at 15. Carry on.
Yes, I'm a lot older than I look. Started off at Ernst & Young, and I'm working at Sagicor now. And I love my job. I love being an auditor, and just as much as I love being an artist. There are two sides of me that I embrace fully. And I think being a part of the creative industries has helped me to be able to try to find ways to express myself that would be away from the norm of the regular financial persons that you would see. Not to say that financial persons aren't creative, but these stereotypes are real. Most of them are very quiet, reserved, focus on the work, and they don't really interact with the public outside of the financial sphere. So
they freak me out, Krystle. They're just there in a corner, and you're like, I don't want to breathe too hard. I don't want to speak too hard, but they freak me out.
I'm hoping to bridge that gap.
Thank you.
You would have done art all the way at school or what's not?
No, I am pretty much self-taught. YouTube is my biggest teacher. I find other artists who inspire me all the time, and I try to get my stuff out there as much as possible, but I'm just grateful that I have this gift, and that's what I will call it, a gift, because there's been very little formal training. I'm sure all of the professional artists probably look at my work and see everything that's wrong with it.
Am I looking at one of the pieces behind you right now?
No, actually, but
I was really hopeful.
This is one of my pieces.
Wow.
If you are watching us on Facebook, you will be able to see Krystle showing us one of her pieces.
Every auditor can't do that, I can tell you.
I can tell that for a fact. So how do you find that the art and artist helps to balance with the auditor work?
Being able to find creative ways to express yourself, for me, is paramount. You need to be able, after, as much as I love the work, there is a lot of stress that comes with it in terms of meeting deadlines, meeting obligations. Sometimes you're working long hours just to make sure that you can dot your I's and cross your T's. So being able to then immerse yourself into something completely different. It is the therapy sometimes that you get for free because therapy isn't always cheap.
I love that.
It helps to put you into another frame of mind, into an escape that I think is necessary, especially for a lot of us that don't have the time to really focus on your mental health properly. Mm-hmm. It's important to find something that you love that you can throw yourself into just as much as you throw yourself into your regular 9 to 5.
I agree. And because we're multidimensional people anyway, so how are we just on this one path? I know people say stay in your lane, but I always say if you know how to overtake properly, you can have more than one, just have to overtake properly. Yeah. So you have managed to do that. So let me ask how, especially the art, would have helped you cope, especially during the last couple of months of COVID?
Well, for me in particular, once the first COVID outbreak came out in Barbados, I've pretty much been exclusively at home. I have only left home literally for medical appointments and stuff like that. And it's only after the very recent streak that I even left home to go to, and it was for Erin as well, to get my key cut when my car key broke. So I have literally been at home. I have barely seen or heard anyone, and anyone who came to help bring groceries or anything like that it was always a 6 feet apart kind of thing. So it was a huge adjustment because I ever so often will have people over and you have that camaraderie and the hugging and everything else, and you have to adjust everything you do and 360 to being pretty much completely alone for the last however many months.
Yeah.
So it's a big adjustment, and I think sometimes you start to feel a pressure, like almost like a depression coming on you. And art was what I threw myself into, whether that's a valid coping mechanism or not. It was what helped me to be able to say, you know what, I can balance the work, I can balance this life, I can balance this new normal, because that's what we've all had to be embracing, a new normal, and finding ways to cope until we can figure out how we're going to navigate this new world properly, I think is very important. And it helped that I was not alone. The number of persons from all different classes and spheres of Barbados that have been saying the same things, the overwhelming feelings sometimes of loneliness, of not being sure how to cope, has been widespread.
Mm-hmm.
It's not particular to any one type of person. It's not particular to persons in the financial industry or persons in the arts community. It is everywhere. And we're all just trying to find a way to make it through this world that we're in.
It's true. I don't think many of us gave significant thought to our communities until we were separated from them. We think of communities as, our neighbors or whatnot. Yeah, the neighbors are there. I still cannot, do what I would normally do with the neighbors or what have you. And things like not having your work colleagues around you or your painting buddies around you or whatever. It's a big deal. It is a really big deal. You don't realize it till literally it's gone. So actually, I think that art would have been the best thing for you to indulge in. I think if it works, then it was the right thing to do. That's personally what I feel.
Yeah. So, Krystle, we got in the art part. Of course, we contacted to talk about the Auditor General's report.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if anyone would have mentioned to you that we called the name way before I actually contacted you. But first of all, I want to get into internal auditing and auditing on the whole. What is auditing? So for anybody that's listening right now, because to me, the auditors was always the people that when they come into your workplaces, they start talking hushed tones. When you hear the auditors kind of, you start
I came in with this purse.
Well, first of all, there's a difference between an accountant
yes
auditor, which most people do not realize. So the accountant is the person who's going to be there every day, making sure that the financial records are properly documented, and they would generate all the reports that they will be analyzing every month. They work with the company. And then the auditor now, I function as an internal auditor, so I'm with Sagicor. We would go to different areas within the company to see if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I do understand why people sometimes duck and hide. But instead of us being the police, we're hoping to pull away from that and have persons see us as a trusted partner, somebody who's there to help make sure, because do you really want to be in a job and not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or not sure if you're doing the right thing? And that's something that we are trying to help persons to understand. We're there to help make the company better. So even if I was to come into the radio station and I'll give you that look.
I keep forgetting that we on the cameras, right?
You're on the camera, we can see your expressions.
Like,
Yes, that's what I come into the radio station. Go on.
Yes, if you had to come into the radio station, and I do this with CBC as well, and they get the same look, so don't worry. But I'll start auditing everything that happens, because the best part of internal auditing is just not looking at the money. You're looking at how things operate. If you're complying with certain regulations, I'm sure there are regulations that you have. Is there a certain amount of local music that you're supposed to play versus overseas music? How are the microphones supposed to be positioned? Is the
like this, the position like this.
So there are lots of things and ways where you could look at something and say, you know what, if these are supposed to be the rules for a broadcast station, are Islam compliant with these rules? Following them, is cause cap involved? How was the relationship with them? So you start auditing everything. It's almost hard to turn off sometimes. I do turn it off when I'm around friends because you don't want to, overwhelm people.
Or when you're in a party.
So you're not talking about people's business like that.
Like, okay, is he auditing me right now? My drink intake, perhaps?
So let's talk about the Auditor General now.
First of all, what does an Auditor General do? Because this sounds like a bigger role than just an auditor.
Yeah, boy, I let the Governor General get.
He is the big dog of big dogs. He is
the big dogs.
Person who for years has been reviewing the financial records of Barbados. And just FYI, I'm not interested in these financial records just because I am an auditor or I have a financial background. It's my tax-paying dollars.
Yes.
And your tax-paying dollars are being spent. And I do, yes, because of my background, have an understanding to be able to read financial reports to see how they're being spent. But you also need to understand, you look at your pay slip and you see taxes coming out. What's happening with them? And then
it's a lot coming out, huh? A lot.
And then you go to the supermarket and you see a VAT at the bottom.
Yep.
Happening with that VAT? What's going on with my money? And that was the whole point of the Auditor General's report. Because as I said, there's a difference between the accountant, who's the person who does the financial records, and now the Auditor General, who is the person who's going to be checking to make sure that these financial records are telling you the correct story. So the financial statements are telling you, we've made this amount of money, we spent this amount of money, this is the final result. The Auditor General is going to say, okay, we double check that and it's either correct or it's not correct. And there are lots of issues in this report. It's over 100 pages long. And every single year, without fail, the Auditor General is bringing to our attention things that are extremely wrong. And the biggest one this year was, for most people, would have been the one with the Barbados Water Authority, where $1.4 billion was in question. Let's put it that way.
And wrong to say unaccounted for or just in question?
It's safer to say in question.
In question? Okay, let me not get somebody.
Let's say it's safe.
All right. Go on, Chris.
The tendering process is one that has come up repeatedly. Basically, you have contracts and you're supposed to put them out to tender. And then you see some person get the contract. It's sometimes more than what would have been bid for. And throughout the report, he's saying that there's nothing additional to show, okay, the person isn't giving me extra microphones for this extra.
No added value, nothing.
No added value. And further from no added value, in many of the cases, what they were contracted to do was not done. So when it comes up to the tune of $1.4 billion, that's not small.
No.
That's not small by any stretch of the imagination. And when I think about all the things that could have been done, I'm sure people in St. Joseph, the other water scarce areas, they're feeling the effects of that money not being spent the way it should have been.
Right. So now, as you say, every year the Auditor General's report comes out, and I asked the question on Twitter. We asked the question here on Slammer via the WhatsApp, and I think that you knew this question was going to come as well. After it comes out, then what? Is it a toothless tiger? Is the position that of a toothless tiger? You got all the bark and no bite. What is it? What are the repercussions of the things that come to light as a result of the Auditor General's report, Krystle?
In terms of what is supposed to happen and whether it has an effect, that is the position that I feel that we're in right now as a country. And the problem is that we keep thinking it's somebody else's job, and yes, it is, but pressure has to be put to help back the Auditor General, to help back the Public Accounts Committee, to help back the every single entity that is supposed to investigate these anomalies, because if the Barbadian public doesn't see it as important, or they don't think that anything will change, nothing will change.
But also, the defense of the public, oftentimes, I mean, people think they're agitating when they say, call what drives you crazy, or call brass tacks, or on a reel, or even call you. And, you take it to the letter to the editor. We take it to the avenues that we believe are available to us, because we can't exactly go to somebody's door and start knocking and say, hey, the Auditor General said, and I didn't see anything come of it. Because my legitimate question is, what kind of pressure are we talking about? What can I actually do to insist that the toothless tiger cut a tooth? And
you remember some time ago we had an issue with potholes?
Yeah.
And you could not breathe without hearing or seeing everywhere people complain about potholes. It was all over social media. It was all over regular media. It was it even had a section in the paper dedicated
to the potholes. I thought was very effective.
It had a whole Facebook page of potholes.
It was phenomenal, because I thought that persons understood that if they wanted change, collectively you have to agitate for it. And what happened as a result? I have a road out with me that I thought would never be fixed for I don't know how long that road has been impassed, but I've never been able to use it. And now it's fixed. And you can see all over Barbados, roads are being fixed. Beijing said it was a priority. It became a priority. The idea that one person alone can agitate for change, because if one person said that they wanted change for potholes, do we think we would have had the changes we have today?
No, we'd probably miss the message. But I guess my other concern is that it's all very media based. Like, if we're not out there on social media, traditional media, that there's no, in other words, should I not be able to write to a particular commission of something, and say, listen, we, the signed or aforesigned, we need answers. We need a town hall meeting. We need something, and they be able to answer. Because, I mean, why must we always be shamed into action?
This is why I'm glad to have these conversations with persons outside the financial sphere, because then you start to get ideas. Because a town hall may very well not be a bad idea to try to say, let's have a conversation with the Attorney General and have whoever needs to be there. What do we need to do to have all the things that were promised, the integrity legislation, the Contractor General, all of
the tabs on these things?
Yeah, because the idea is these things should be funded in a way that will help to pay for themselves. And at the very least, they should be saving you from, because Barbados Authority is just one entity within government. What happens if you had to audit every single entity in government to that level of detail?
Audit leakage.
If you had to accumulate it, this is one entity with a $1.4 billion issue.
Yeah.
All of the money that we're looking for in additional taxes, in bonds, in everything else, would we have to be doing that?
Yeah.
Which means that in a time of COVID, having these problems addressed is a priority. It should be agenda number one, because of the kind of money that you would save as a country, that you have to keep going to taxpayers, especially now when so many persons are out of work and unable to contribute to society.
Our taps are dry, literally and figuratively.
We can't keep putting pressure on the ones who are left back to pull up the slack. And at some point, we as citizens have to say, enough is enough. Can we please just plug the holes? We don't care who started the holes.
Exactly.
I really don't care if it was B, D, or the man in the sea. Plugging the holes, no. How are we making sure that we stop these things from happening in the future? Because we can't keep going on like this. At some point, we have to say enough is enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Question here for you. Is there a review or follow-up or mandated time frame for the correction of the issues that are highlighted in the Auditor General's report? Are there any consequences of failing? And why audit if the findings are going to be ignored?
The one good thing I saw in the Auditor General's report is that the current administration seems to be putting all pressure on entities to get financial records up to date and everything else. And make no mistake, this is not a snap your fingers and the problem is solved right away kind of problem. But because it is a long-term problem, we need to start. If we don't start, we'll never get to the finish. So at least that part gave me some kind of hope that, okay, at least people are taking it seriously. They're putting pressure. There's still some entities that are not compliant, and there's no one broad brush reason to say why they're not. It could be resources. It could be a lack of training on people's part to know what to do. Records may not be easily retrievable. The technology is not in person's favor. That's part of audit as well too, finding out why things aren't happening so that you can help put things in place. Because I would want to come in and tell Salt, you're using your wrong microphone, you want firing, without understanding why he doesn't have the right microphone.
All I have.
Yeah, you have to find out why, because then you would then put the wrong recommendations in place.
Right.
Next question for you is...
In terms of the deadlines part.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
That deadline, it would be nice, because when people don't have a deadline, it kind of falls off the plate.
It is true. Like with everything. Like, I don't say get it done by 3 o'clock. I can't promise you much.
So
now I was going to ask you, who do you, Auditor General, that position, that is a governmental post?
yes.
So the government is paying this person to do this report every year and not acting upon it. That alone in itself is wastage as far as I'm concerned.
The function of the internal audit is very, a lot of people don't get it because you're being paid by the persons who are supposed to fix the problems. Mm-hmm. But the structure that is supposed to happen is for companies, you usually have a board that has a vested interest in making sure that the management of the company does what they're supposed to do. So internal audit doesn't report to management. They report to the board. Mm-hmm. In government, it's a very funny relationship, because as much as the Auditor General has been functioning, because you have to definitely be very, very bold and brave to be putting out these kind of things and knowing that I do give him that credit, but the impetus for having action done has been stymied exactly because of that. Who is responsible for making sure that pressure is put on in place for these things to happen? And that is the question, where if the persons who are being complained about are the ones who are supposed to put pressure about them being fixed, then we have a problem, which is why it's so important for there to be public pressure, because the voice of pressure then falls on us. And the financial community has been pushing this, but again, the awareness to be able to have wider public support has to be there as well. And that's what I am hoping to do whenever I come out on these kind of forums. That is not just a problem that people think, oh, the finance community is going to lobby for that. And it's only the finance community. Everybody who pays taxes should be lobbying for this to happen.
Because I was going to go into that, because I said, even though we basically glossed over the fact that, we wouldn't have to necessarily be getting increased taxes or this, that, the third, if things were being managed better. I wouldn't say properly, but better than they certainly seem to have been outlined in the Auditor General's report. How do you get the average person who says, listen, I have my things to deal with. I got these 2 children to feed and I got to learn homeschooling. That sounds like enough. People under pressure.
Yeah,
it's enough on their plate. I don't think they're going to sit there, because disclaimer, Salt and I did not read all 100 pages of that.
I did not.
Like you, Cliff Notes, and we took out the ones that
I took out the ones that I see in the paper.
We took out the ones we saw. This is what we saw. This is what we took out. And water, because it's been such a pressing issue because of the scarcity. And, I think I've seen more forthcoming reports about how much pressure we're under where the water is concerned than anything. That's probably why it stood out the most. But it does not mean that it doesn't impact housing,
Yeah.
that it does not impact both urban and rural development, that it doesn't security, that it doesn't impact fisheries, all these other things. And these are the day-to-day things that we eat, we consume. And I just don't think that even at our level that we sit there and broadly think about an Auditor General's report, because usually we're accustomed to seeing it come out. According to somebody can make some noise about it, and then it's going to continue to, the next thing that's within arm's reach. So how do we keep the pressure on in a sustained manner to make this thing a part of our culture that we need accountability?
You know what you mentioned? That is a long conversation, honestly, because I personally understand that when persons are dealing with financial pressures and everything else, just trying to manage life, it is understandable that they don't have time to agitate for these things. Mm-hmm. And it's an unfortunate balance, because I often wonder the same way how we were able to harness that attention people had for potholes because they felt directly impacted. It's on persons like myself and a lot of the different communities I'm with, whether it's ICAB, which is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados, the Institute of Internal Auditors, the Integrity Group Barbados, all of these persons to lobby and rally persons so that they are able to see the link, the same way they saw the link for potholes,
right?
To be able to see the link for how this report and the issues within this report is contributing to the same financial pressures that they're feeling. Because every time your salary goes down because there's a new tax or an increase in prices in Barbados because of some subsidy that had to be taken away, or other social service that is put on the table for discussion because we have to find money from somewhere.
Right.
That's
right here.
Krystle, we're gonna actually have to stop you here and re-invite you on the show because we know got things to talk about here.
I know. We can.
You've opened the can and we got to talk some more, but it's after 10 o'clock right now. DMZ is ready to have his shift. Maybe next week, Wednesday, we can have a further follow-up conversation. I'll talk to you offline. As long as you're available, you'll be able to take.
I love that. We're going to talk about that too.
We're going to talk some more and stuff as well. Krystle, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You are a champion. You are an unsung hero in Barbados. You continue to keep up the good work, and we are going to try to get you on the show next week. Please, please, please make yourself available.
A thumbs up for that. Yes.
Thank you so much, guys. That's it for COVID conversation for this morning, and that's it for Mornings on Stand. We went a bit over time. We apologize for that. We apologize to UCC as well over there on Y103.3. But I think the conversation was great. It was going great, and we're going to continue that conversation next week. Thank you for joining us on the Facebook, guys.
Yes,
thank you for joining us for Morning.